Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Exercise is Bullshit, which of course stands for bodybuilding, utilizing logical lifting and scientific heuristics to inform training. I am joined today by friend, colleague, buddy I actually went to high school with that we just reconnected about 20 years later. My friend David Cook, who
Weird.
owns Cookie Cuts Fitness in Nashville. So, Dave, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell me a little bit about your business, your journey getting into strength training, and kind of how you became a coach.
Yeah, how far back do you want me to go?
As far as you think is necessary, give me kind of the abridged version to start. Just like how you got into fitness leading up to this, and then we'll talk a little bit about cuts.
Yeah. So let's see. I first got into fitness when I was like 18. I'm going like far back there. But I broke up with a girl, my first like girlfriend ever. That's what got me into it.
Tale as old
Um,
as time.
right. Yeah, I know. It's very cliche, but it's true. Um, yeah, so I got into fitness, around that age, doing all the wrong things, but I got very lucky that I met Lane Norton was my first coach, like Bio Lane.
You actually
So
worked with Lane?
yeah, I met
Oh,
him when I was like 19.
what? You never
Yeah,
told me that. That's awesome.
yeah, through
Okay.
like bodybuilding.com forums. This was like, before social media.
So
So it was
before
like,
he was like big deal Lane, he was just a coach.
oh yeah, I think it was like $500 for the whole prep, or
That's
something like that.
awesome. I had
Yeah,
no idea. That's super cool. We should do a whole separate
yeah,
episode about that. Do you still keep in
yeah,
touch
that'd
with
be
him?
cool. I did some mentoring sessions with him, like a few years ago, but I wasn't in a good place for it. And like, didn't really know what I needed from it, kind of thing. So
That's
it was
cool.
really, really cool working with him. But yeah, it was funny because I think his whole prep was $500, but each mentoring session was like 500 an hour, or
Yeah.
something.
So
Like
he was
once he
still
got
bougie
big and
back
stuff.
then. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And I might be able to even get him on this with you because he was gonna get on like a podcast with me when I was thinking about doing one and just never pulled the trigger,
That's
kind of thing.
freaking amazing. We should
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about
because
that
I was like, yeah, yeah,
offline.
I'll try to like hit him up and see. I don't
Yeah.
know if he'll even respond
We actually
anymore.
know some of the same people. Like I know some of the guys that he collaborates with a lot now that are
That's
like
cool.
smaller than he is, but he's so
Yeah,
big. I mean,
I
but if
know.
he could be on Peter Attia's podcast and then on mine, heck yeah, I would take it. Let's do it.
Right? No, hey, that's why I didn't do it because like I was like I wasn't even prepared. I was like I have no idea what I'm doing. I didn't know how to edit anything or anything, and I just kind of was like, hey, do you want to be on this? And he was like, sure. Like just schedule with me, and I was like,
That's sweet.
Never mind." I was like, thought you'd say no. Yeah, I worked with him for my first bodybuilding competition. I was 19, so I won teens for that. Though I did a natural show for my first one. This is back before there were like many competitions anywhere kind of thing. So I had to go to like Rhode Island for this, and I remember like I think there was one show a year in Tennessee back then. But yeah, so I did that competition. Kind of like that's when I started getting into like gear, and steroids and stuff after that time. And then kind of like dabbled with that and powerlifting. That's when I got into like fighting MMA and did that for 4 or 5 years, like semi-pro kind of thing, just for fun, everything. I was never like, gonna do super well with it or anything, but I do miss it and love it. Around
Yeah,
that
not
time,
to
like,
not to be fucked
oh,
with at a bar or anything though. So that's why I don't talk shit to people whenever I
yeah,
go out because you never
yeah,
know
you
who's
never know.
doing
Yeah,
jujitsu.
it's been a while too, like I've just taught kids for, the past 5 years or something. But yeah, I miss it a lot. Um, but yeah, like around that time, I got into nursing school, so I was still fighting when I started, nursing school, and um, just couldn't keep up with it, like so I kind of fell off and started gaining some weight near the end of nursing school, and worked as a nurse at nights and stuff. So that's when my drinking kind of took off and stuff. Around that time, like I'd gained a ton of weight, and I worked as a nurse for a couple of years, and decided to just take some time off. Like I took a mental health leave, and I actually got a job at GNC of all things, just to like do something, in like fitness, and kind of like wanted to get back into it, and was starting to lose weight again and kind of like fall back in love with it. Decided to compete again around that time, so that's when I did like, around half a dozen competitions and started getting back into fitness. I worked as a manager at a boxing gym for a little while. It was a group fitness place, and that's around the time I started Cookie Cuts. I just started it, for fun. Like everyone was asking me for meal plans, and we didn't offer that there. And the owner was kind of like, "Yeah, sure, go for it," you know. And so somebody helped me with the name. Somebody just was like, "Hey, you need a logo." So it was just a lot of people like just kind of chipping in and like helping me. And I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, you know, and like just no idea how to run a business. And I'm still figuring that out, you know. But I just knew like I've always loved fitness and always loved this, you know, and just it's what keeps me going, you know. So I love like being able to do this for myself, but help others with it too. It's really cool. But yeah, around the time I was like, you know, kind of started doing it on my own, uh, I I you know ended that job with the boxing gym and I actually got sued over a non-compete for like taking clients. It cost me like $10,000.
Jeez, yeah, been
Yeah,
there.
dude, yeah, it was just like one of those things where like it was a client I brought in, I took him with me, so
Yeah,
like I would have won,
yeah,
but it would have cost me 10 grand in lawyer fees, you know,
yeah.
and
So it's just
the
easier to just get
dude
it
had
over with.
money,
Yeah,
yeah, so we just had to settle, and that sucked, but yeah, like let's see, around that time, like I was just kind of bouncing from gym to gym, like renting spaces out. I taught at Orange Theory, Iron Tribe, different places like that, just kind of keep myself going. And then around the time of COVID, I had actually like you know ended a job at a gym, so I was kind of starting to do my own thing. And the second the gyms closed, I ordered like what equipment I could, and just kind of started doing it on my own. Um, and like was training out of my driveway. I had a big event tent in my driveway, and like you know if it rained, I had to cancel, you know, and stuff like that. But everybody was like, you know, nobody had anywhere to work out, and everyone was weird about it, you know. So having just a space that was private training was like actually pretty, you know, helpful back then. And it was around the time I had been doing online coaching before that, just to kind of do it in like nutrition was more online anyway. And that but online really took off around that time, like virtual sessions and all that kind of stuff, you know that. um so I really like started to like do really well with all of that, you know, and that was around the time I had just gotten married. So everything was going pretty well during COVID, but that's the time my drinking took off too, you know. So around that time is when, you know, I just like was doing really well, making a ton of money, but couldn't keep my shit together, you know. So it'd be like 6 months of me like hitting the ground hard, and then I'd relapse or something and drink, and then run it all into the ground, and then you know go to rehab and get all the shit back together, and then do that all over again. So that's been like the last 5 years, pretty much, has been like really like trying very very hard, like all or nothing kind of mindset for like 6 months, and then kind of like relapsing and falling off and like burning out, you know, and kind of falling off and stuff. And then you know, it was just that cycle for a while, and then I kind of just like gave up around like a year and a half ago or so. You know, I'd had like periods of like a year sobriety here and there, and relapses, and just repeating that cycle, you know. And then around a year or so ago, I just stopped doing anything, stopped working out, gained a bunch of weight, you know. And then when I got back into it, you know, I went to rehab again, and then started getting back in, rebuilding my business. And you know, this year I hired a business coach, and everything's been taking off like really well. So I'm very grateful for that. But it's amazing, like when you just learn the right things to do and have a little momentum and have the right people in your corner, you know, how much damage you can do. You know, so
yeah. That's pretty crazy, man. And it's I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing all that stuff for any of our listeners that have gone through stuff like that before. But it's it's cool, but I'm sure it's also frustrating for you to see the fact that like you've still managed to hang on to this business the entire time through all that stuff that you've gone through. Just imagine, and this is not meant to be a
I
negative
know,
thing in any way, like what
I
you could have
know, yeah.
accomplished if you kept it all together.
Uh,
So like, but
dude.
it's cool to see you back on the track, and the fact that you just didn't give up on it. You just kept coming back to what you loved, and able to kind of find the right track back there. So I really knowing you now for a while, and kind of seeing how motivated you are and working with the business coach and all of that, I'm really hopeful for you to like really see this thing take off to the next level. So that's awesome.
Appreciate
So
it.
if somebody was wondering now that kind of Cookie Cuts has an identity, right? It's been around. It sounds like at least 5 years. How long was it before COVID? Maybe another 4 or 5 years
Probably like
before that.
eight or so total. Yeah.
Okay, so like almost a decade now with Cookie
Mm.
Cuts. If somebody was to come to you or they see your website and they're like, "Wow, that dude's jacked. You got some really nice pictures on there." What would you say is like your 30-second elevator pitch for somebody that's coming to you that maybe wants to work with you?
30-second elevator pitch. Oh man, I need to work on that. I've always been so like all over the place with my pitches and stuff, which I think people kind of appreciate, like the genuinity of it, so to
Well,
speak.
let's just say
But
let's
no,
make it
yeah,
a little easier. I'm coming to you. I'm out of shape. Let's just do like the average person that's coming in. Don't want to be a bodybuilder. They just want to get in better shape. Hey man, I've worked with coaches before. I've had some experience and some successes. I've kind of fallen off. What do you think your program would help me with? Like, what would be the recommendation you would give for me?
yeah. I always tell people like the biggest thing they're paying for with me is the accountability. You know, like no matter like how well I've done or how busy I've gotten, like I kind of suck at boundaries. So like I always like kind of give my clients too much, which I appreciate too. Like I like being able to do that. So I've always like tried to show up for my clients like more than any other coach, in any way, and tried to offer things that other people don't. But I think the biggest thing that I offer with this is just accountability, and just keeping people like in check with it, because I think your mindset with this is can make or break it. Like anybody can work out an hour a day, but it's keeping their shit together 24/7. That's tough.
Yeah, no, I totally recognize the boundaries thing, and that's something I think a lot of coaches probably struggle with, especially when they own their own business. It's like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, I can't really pass this off to anybody else, and like I want to be available, and if somebody's got a scheduling change or something, it's like I might as well do it, and I know how that can interfere
Yeah.
with your personal life and other things too. So, one of the
Yeah.
things I like to talk about on this show, Dave, is just changing your mind, changing your mindset is like mounting evidence has presented itself. So obviously, you've been doing fitness for a long time, you've been in MMA, all of that stuff. What is something you can think of in maybe the last 3 to 5 years that you've made a big like 180 turn on from a fitness perspective? Maybe you thought it was like bulking and cutting was the way to go, or you have to use heavy weights for strength, light weights for you know um, tone. Anything like that that really stands out to you that you've kind of evolved with over the last 3 to 5 years?
I would say like I've almost gotten like less hardcore the last 3 or 5 years. Like one big thing I tell a lot of clients is like all you have to do is do like improve on one thing every week and just continue that. And that'll build on itself. So one thing I've seen with myself that's helped the most is like baby steps and just doing what I can today. And like kind of the whole day at a time thing, like really applies to this too, I think. So I think like, the biggest thing with it is just kind of like um not being like I was always very hardcore when I was younger. It was like everything has to be perfect, like 6 meals a day, every 3 hours, and that kind of thing. And I've really learned to appreciate just taking baby steps, and just like gradually improving, and it really does like compound and add on itself.
Yeah, I think that's great because it applies to so many different areas of fitness too, right? Like especially in the bodybuilding world or just in like strength training world in general, it's like you have to get all your protein in and you have to equally split it. Well, it's like we actually see a lot of research now that says as long as you hit your protein goal, probably doesn't matter as much. Like,
Yeah.
well, you have to work out 5 days a week if you want to get results. Well, actually, as long as you do adequate sets throughout the week and you're working with enough intensity, probably doesn't matter. So it's like,
Yeah.
yes, is it great to have a foundation and a routine and really stick to it and like build upon that? But like if you're starting from nothing and your goal is just to take the first step and you look at like how the fuck am I going to eat 6 meals a day, get 150 grams of protein, 10,000 steps, work out 5 days? It's like I might as well not even start.
Yeah.
I definitely resonate with that. Is like what's the building blocks? What's the first step we can take in the right direction that's going to help people?
Yeah.
I had some questions just about how you kind of decided to become a coach, but you answered a lot of that in kind of your background. I guess my first big question for you is like, how did you go about kind of finding clients? I think that's one of the things that, especially business owners, like small business owners, really struggle with is like, especially if you're doing it on your own, how do you get the word out? And I want to talk about your social media and stuff at some point, but just in the beginning, kind of walk me through that process. And even now, like, what does it look like finding clients for you?
Yeah, that's always been like a very difficult thing, like, um, so like early on, it was definitely all word of mouth referrals, social media, that kind of thing. So I was always waiting around for people to come to me. It was never like me going after anybody or trying to find leads or anything like that, which made me feel like very out of control, like with my income, and with like making sales and stuff like that. Like, I can sell someone when I get them on a call, but it was getting them on a call that was the hard part, you know. But since I started working with this business coach this year, a newer thing I discovered was cold DMs, and kind of lead acquisition and stuff like that. So this has all been like fairly new to me this year. Because I remember when I started working with her, that was like one of the first things she talked about was how it was like non-negotiable. You have to do cold DMs. And I was like, what the fuck did I get myself into? Like, holy shit. It was like, I got to cold call people. Like, oh man. And I've never worked in sales, directly or anything besides just doing this. So, like, the cold DM process was very frustrating, but it's made me feel much more control of like my business, my income, and getting new clients, and like client acquisition and stuff. So, um, while it is a very frustrating process, it is like definitely propelled me forward, and like made me feel much more in control. And now I've hired a setter, so I have somebody who kind of helps me with that, which is really cool. Like once you can kind of get to like higher levels where you can hire people to help you with sales, it really helps kind of streamline stuff. So definitely like word of mouth, social media has been like very important, but even the social media is a very important part of like cold DMing and lead acquisition and stuff like that too.
Yeah, I think the cold calling piece is something I know I personally always struggle with because I have the same mindset. It's like if you can get people in front of me, I will close them 95% of the time, but it's just finding those warm
Mhm.
bodies that actually want what you have to offer. And being in the fitness space too, and I'm sure you notice you have quite a large social media following now, but I'm sure you even still get from like the next level up of people. Like it always seems there's this trickle down of like, hey man, you trying to grow? Let me reach out to you via, and I'm like,
Oh
oh
yeah.
my God, this seems just so
Oh yeah.
lame. But then you realize those guys, if they're actually successful, and even the business coach you're working with, I'm sure it started from some kind of cold DM, or maybe you reached out to her and it was slightly different with a warm lead, but like
Yeah.
that stuff works. Does it work as well as a referral? No, but like there's a lot of people who make a lot of money doing that, and if you can
Yeah.
do it the right way, it's certainly going to help grow your business.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
For sure.
talk to me about a little bit of the evolution of how you, because now you have like a home-based garage gym setup that you do. You mentioned the big tent during COVID. I know at one point you were renting some space and like the gym burned down. Talk to
Yeah.
me kind of about the decision of moving to a home-based gym and what that's been like, instead of maybe making the decision to say like, hey, I'm going to lease a physical space and try to do a gym that way.
Yeah. I did get like very lucky with my space currently, so it's like where I live, and the rent's pretty reasonable. But I've like you said, rented spaces out of different gyms, and that kind of thing. And I've done everything from like, a monthly, rent to like a percentage, and I think the highest percentage, I think I paid 50% at one gym, so like 50% of like clients I brought in and money I brought in was going to somebody else that wasn't doing anything, you know. So it like when I discovered like doing it on my own, even during COVID when it was very like all over the place and kind of ghetto, it was definitely like, it made me feel much more, again, in control kind of, that it was like my thing and my space, and I could do what I wanted to with it kind of thing. Um, but it has made it like much easier and much more streamlined, especially with doing like online work because I just am here in my house, and stuff like that. Yeah, the one place I rented that caught fire was crazy. That was just yeah, very frustrating.
When it comes to building out your home gym, because you have quite a bit of equipment in there and it's kind of
Mhm.
an eclectic mix, like what was kind of your thought process when you were putting that together? And do you have any other pieces in mind in the future? If you maybe kind of want to walk us through like the type of stuff you have, and then we can talk a little bit about maybe how you structure your sessions as well.
Cool. Yeah. So it started with just like whatever I get my hands on, and afford kind of thing. Which, the fire I had a few years ago kind of like got rid of a lot of that stuff, So, fortunately I, made about 6 grand on GoFundMe, from that and, took out like a small loan. So I was able to kind of piece together a little more of what I wanted. So like this rack, the Rogue Monster rack, is like always been one of my dream racks, stone, and stuff like that. And I made sure to get like nicer bumpers and all that. And then I've got a cable machine, squat machine, leg extension, leg curl, a couple sets of dumbbells that go up to like around 5 to 100 pounds. Um, but like I always tell people, if I had 10 grand to throw away today, I could absolutely drop it today on like gym equipment. That quad send from that Temple of Gains is like pretty amazing. I do want one of those. Um,
Shout out Yogi at
yeah,
Temple of Gains. I put
dude,
a link to all his stuff in all my episodes.
cool.
I get that, like, I don't think anybody's even bought anything through the podcast yet, but I just try to help in any way I can. And
Yeah, that's
anybody's
cool.
listening that's looking for a piece, check out the Quad Send on Kickstarter because it's freaking like if you need one leg machine, that's the leg machine to
I know
get.
it
So
looks sick. I'm running
yeah,
out of space too, so like
yeah.
there's that. Like no doubt I'd have like 5 grand in a firm right now if I had more space.
Yeah. Is there
Um,
anything you have your eye on? And I know you said you could easily drop 10 grand, and I agree with that statement 100%. And I don't even have any space.
yeah.
But if there was like one or two pieces realistically that you feel like you could add that would add a ton of value to what you currently offer your clients, what would that be?
I have been wanting what's called Voltaire, that cable
Oh,
machine thing,
yeah. It's not
the little
Voltaire, but
attachment,
it's this. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's like
something
the
like
goes up to
that.
220 pounds, and
And
it's
it's
like a
just like a
single
little
pulley.
box.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
those are really cool.
Yeah, and like I've seen people like attach it even to like, because my leg extension's plate loaded, so I've seen people attach it to like stuff like that. Any plate loaded machine, or I've got like a Smith machine attachment. I could attach it to that, or something like that. So that seems like pretty versatile, which is pretty cool. Even like my squat machine, I could add it to that, and it would add like a different kind of resistance. So that'd be cool. But they are proud of those. I think it's like 3 grand or something.
Yeah, they are.
Um, yeah, which I mean, my cable machine was around that, so I guess that makes sense. But honestly, there isn't really like, I want a new treadmill, so it's more so like I want to update some stuff more so than anything else. Like I've wanted some Nuo those
Yeah, those are
dumbbells,
really cool.
pretty,
Yeah.
yeah, those are, I have a friend that has them and they're really nice, but I've
I
got
actually,
power
s-
blocks.
I actually saw. I don't know if they're still available because I don't need them, but I almost bought them. There's a pair I saw on Facebook Marketplace. I'll see if they're
Oh yeah.
still available. They're in
Oh yeah.
Clarksville
Send
or
me a link.
something. Five
Okay.
hundred bucks for the 80 pound ones, and they're
Well,
like,
that's like a grand, isn't it?
yeah, they're normally like
Okay.
900 or something.
Cool. Yeah. Send me a link if you find that. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll try to remember to send it to you. I'll write it down.
Not that I
Um,
need
t-
to spend 500
yeah,
bucks on more dumbbells, like I
but
don't
if
need
you had
that.
to, yeah, well, that way I can use them too. So it's like,
Yeah, there you go.
okay, talk to me a little bit about, you do, I think typically hour-long sessions. I know you mentioned you work with some kids for kickboxing and stuff, but somebody comes to you for the first time, they've maybe done some strength training in the past. What does your initial program kind of look like? From a strength training perspective, assuming they can work with you in person, kind of walk me through maybe what a session looks like. And then if they want some nutrition guidance, how is that kind of structured? Like, is it all online or in person? Just kind of
Okay.
walk me through that process a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So, with my in-person clients, it really depends on experience and frequency. Frequency most of all, honestly. So, if somebody's wanting to do, just one session a week, I kind of have to tailor it to that. So like I'll try to keep it like more well-rounded, so they're hitting a little bit of everything with me, and then, still give them a training plan on their own to do like certain amount, depending on access to equipment and experience and all that kind of stuff. But I will say, like, most of my client sessions look very similar. Like I keep it like, I'm a big fan of like basics, or, boring is best, and like, basics and cliches and staples or staples for a reason. So like, I'm very like, barbell and dumbbell movements, compound lifts, stuff like that. So it's very like, if somebody does legs with me, they're all going to be squatting, they're all going to be deadlifting, they're all going to be doing leg extensions, curls, Bulgarians, all that kind of stuff. So
So
all pretty like standard.
if it's a one time a week versus say a three time a week, are you splitting
Yeah.
it up, versus full body maybe for the one time a week and
Mhm.
then, upper lower? Like how is that structured? And obviously there's going to be super amounts of variance, but just think the general person that's coming in.
Yeah, yeah. So usually, I usually suggest at least 2 days a week so we can hit upper and lower. So usually it'll be an upper lower split with me, And then depending on how much they want to do on their own and actually will do on their own, that can kind of change things. But usually I just kind of do an upper lower split kind of thing. If they will do 3 days plus a week, then I'll break up body parts a lot more. So it'll be more like chest, shoulders, back, arms, and then legs, that kind of thing.
Got it. Do you have like a tracking or programming software that you use for people?
Now I'm still on spreadsheets. So
Okay.
yeah, so I still use
So
like Google Drive and spreadsheets for
gotcha.
everything.
Cool. That's
Yeah.
actually what we use for our clients as well. I'm only asking that too because I know a lot of people use like Trainerize and stuff. I actually
Yeah.
found a new website. I was looking for another client that
Mhm.
wants me to like write some programming for them, and instead of just sending them an Excel spreadsheet, she was asking like, "Is there an app or something that we can use?" Because her old coach had an app that she liked, and I
Yeah.
found this app called Boost Camp. Have you ever heard of that? It's pretty dope. Boost Camp. It's like $60 for a year. And I've only used it like once, but it's really easy to program in it to create stuff. And then everything you make, you can make public. So, like, if you wanted general programs for people, you could
Yeah.
just put it under cookie cuts, full body split, or something like that. And
That's
then just
cool.
tell your clients to download that app and look for it. And then they could do all that stuff on their own. So, that could be
Okay.
something
Does
for
it does it
starters.
have videos or anything?
I haven't gotten that far yet. I think it probably does, but it's got a lot of big names involved with it, like Eric Helms and
Oh, okay.
Dr. Pack, and there's a lot
Okay.
of people that seem to kind of use it. I think Flex Wheeler, like the old Olympia champion, is
Okay.
part of it and has some programs and stuff. It's cool. You should check it out and just see. I'm gonna
Yeah.
mess around with it more. I just used it at the gym for the first time the other day, but I
Okay.
really liked like a lot of the apps are like super clunky and it's hard to like make
Yeah.
modifications and stuff. This was really simple. So we can talk more about that
Okay.
offline too. But
Yeah, that's cool.
um, as far as pricing and how you structure it for people, because I know this varies for everybody. Well, let's talk about nutrition first, and then we can kind of go through like structure for pricing and all.
Yeah, so my nutrition's all online. And then like for any in-person clients, I call them hybrid clients if they do nutrition also. So that's going to be like if they're doing in-person sessions and then they want to do online nutrition, they're a hybrid. And then I have just online clients who just do the nutrition and training online. So the training online is just training plans. That's one reason I have thought about apps is because a lot of people do ask about videos. And like I'll kind of ghetto film myself and it's, all over the place. But with nutrition, I found that a lot of coaches don't do this anymore, but I found that meal plans tend to work best with like just Gen Pop, like lifestyle clients. Takes a lot of the guesswork out, and a lot of people really suck at tracking. And even if like they can kind of figure it out, there's still a lot of room for error. So I usually
When
start people off with meal plans.
when you say meal plans, is it super basics like beef, rice, and vegetables, or do you
Yeah.
have recipes and stuff there, or is it more broken down by macros? Like, how do you kind of structure it for someone?
Yeah, so it depends on like the person and their preferences and stuff like that. But I do have like my go-to foods. So a lot of it is like, um, you know, I section it off by like protein, carbs, fats, and vegetables. So it'll be like, average is 5 meals. Two of those are like shakes. And it'll be like, half a cup of egg whites and half a cup of oatmeal for breakfast, or something. If they want more fruit, I'll give them more fruit. If they want something weird or different, I've got some clients overseas. I got a client in India who likes, different things. They have different access to different foods. So I do definitely make it very individualized, and tailored to the person. And if they want more kind of recipes and stuff like that, but I always tell people I can't tell you what you're going to like or enjoy, so I can't tell you the flavors you're gonna like. So I try to help guide people with sauces and seasonings and stuff, and like different ways to cook stuff. So that's kind of how the accountability comes into play. Like people can text me, 24/7 and ask those kinds of like questions. If there's stuff like I can't do any more rice, what can I do? Then I'll substitute something for them or, whatever else. So it's very like hands on during the week, and then of course, like weekly check ins, I'll make different, adjustments just based on what they need. So they do like a weekly check in once a week, and I get them like a video review back. If that
Got
makes
it.
sense.
Is that is it macro based or is it calorie based or like a combination of both? Like, are they doing body composition tests where you're putting together like a calorie structure to start, or do you have them tracking using some kind of tracking app, or what does that look like?
Yeah, so I like I'll make the meal plan. It is like macro based, so I still have macros on there for like overall for the day, not per meal. So it'll be like, it'll say at the top 160 protein, 180 carbs, but it'll still have the meals broken down. So if people do want to track, and I do try to get a lot of people to just start using apps, to kind of get good at it. At least with my Fitness Pal, people can add me as a friend so I can see their logs. And it's like one of the go-tos, and it's pretty cheap for the yearly, so it's not like ridiculous. So I do have a lot of clients who are just tracking currently, and I just give them macros. And then I have a lot of clients who are just meal plan, and they don't even open a tracking app, kind of thing.
So it is very individualized. So
Mhm.
that's pretty cool. So what is and before you answer this question, you can take a pause and think about what the actual price that you should be charging is versus what the price that you're currently charging is, and then say that. So if somebody wanted to work with you in person, and
Mhm.
maybe do like a hybrid thing where they're doing say twice a week, or break it down however you want. But what does it cost to work with Cookie Cuts?
Yeah, so my in-person sessions are 95 an hour. I do drop to 85 for certain packages. So I do offer like a monthly package. It's 2 sessions a week. For a month, those expire in the month, and that's 680. So that's 85 a session, and nutrition's included with that. And then anybody else just in person who adds nutrition, that's an extra 200 a month. If you're just doing online coaching, that's 400 a month.
Got
So
it. So that would be
I
like the
try to keep it pretty
workouts and
basic.
nutrition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
great.
And then
And
I do
those are
offer
the
like,
actual prices, not the price he should be
yeah,
charging. So he's not, it's not cheaper
no,
than that.
that's
If you
that's the
reach out to
actual
Dave,
price. Yeah. That's the
yeah,
actual
if you reach
price.
out to Dave,
Yeah.
don't haggle.
Yeah. No, no, yeah. I mean, actually, that was one of the few things my coach was like, okay, about like when I told her my prices early on. She was like, okay, that's cool, kind of thing. Because most people undercharge.
Definitely.
They're like, yeah, like, because I was 200 a month for years. And then one day I was like, fuck it, let's double it, and kind of went with that. And it's worked
Yeah.
out well,
Yeah,
so
that's great. And I think
yeah.
that's it seems like there's people who have no problem charging a premium for their services. And then I
Mm.
feel like it's a lot of people that actually know what they're doing are like, yeah, but I want to help people, so I don't want to make it unaffordable. And then yeah, you kind of
Oh,
get
yeah.
caught up in that same thing.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that being said, I do have clients paying less,
yeah.
so like I have made adjustments when I shouldn't
Yeah.
have, and
Yeah.
that kind of thing for sure.
Yeah, you gotta keep people around. Yeah, no, I totally understand that. Well, you talked a lot about this coach that you've been working with, and you've recently been putting a lot of time and effort into expanding your online offering. So, what does that currently look like, and
Mhm.
what is kind of the value for clients? What do they get when they're working with you compared to one of the other millions of trainers out there? And then, what is kind of like the future of what this evolution is for you from the online space?
Yeah, so let's see. Yeah, I started working with that business coach, around May or so. And I was making around 1,000 a month then, and I'm up to like 13,000 now or something like that. So like it's paid off, like absolutely. It's been a commitment. Like I had to take a loan out for it and like borrow some money from my dad, and stuff like that. And I didn't have it, at all. And it's paid itself off, which has been really cool. So I'm currently doing like, I did like a course with her, and now I'm doing like private coaching with her. And you have to make 6 figures a year in order to do that. So I just kind of graduated to that, so to speak. Um, but I work with her, weekly kind of thing. We do like weekly calls, and she kind of helps like, it's essentially like what I do for my clients, she does for me, which is really cool. Like the accountability aspect, and like having somebody dumb it down for me and just kind of say like, this is what this is all I have to do today, and I don't have to worry about anything else. Or this is all I have to do this week, and I don't have to worry about everything else and get overwhelmed and be like, I tend to be like very all or nothing with stuff. So like I'll just go all out until I burn out, and this helps me slow down a little, so that's the same kind of thing I try to offer my clients is just, voice of reason sometimes, and just a plan that they know will work. So like I always tell people, if you do everything I tell you, you'll be happy and you'll get what you want and you'll reach your goals. It's just doing it that's the difficult part, and that's what I'm here to help with, kind of thing. So that's why I try to make it like very just all encompassing, like anything anybody needs. Offer recovery work and stuff like that, and try to make it different. And like I'm pretty much a therapist for half of my clients. Like 100%, and I think that's most trainers. Will tell you that. Um, but yeah, like what I offer that's just different. Like I would say like the individualized like portion of it, and just like the hands-on aspect, like I know way too many people that just kind of like hire out a lot of that work, and like have assistant coaches, and you might, hire a coach, but you're not working with them, kind of thing. They might kind of like oversee stuff here and there, but it's not the person who sold you. It's not the person who's like actually making your plan. It's not the person who's doing your check-ins, kind of thing. So like when you pay for me, you get me, and that
Yeah.
kind of thing.
And I think there's actually a lot of value in that because in this age of automation and AI and everything, it's like there's so many really cool things you can get for so cheap now that are
Yeah,
really well put together and cool
100%.
products. But it's just like it's kind of soulless, right? Like there's almost something cool about getting an Excel spreadsheet where some of the words are spelt wrong because
Yeah.
the
Yeah,
person
right?
actually,
Yeah.
yeah, they actually put it
It's so
together and
true.
like, yeah,
Yeah.
and they, they thought about
It
inserting
wasn't
the links they were
ChatGPT or
putting in.
anything.
Exactly. Or maybe it was part chat GPT, but they still typed
Probably.
it. So, whatever it is. But like,
My
yeah,
handouts are, that's for sure.
but like there's something to that of that actual personal touch, and I think that's
Yeah.
going to continue to differentiate people that can charge a premium in the future because there's going to be so many cookie cutter offerings. There are good
Mhm.
programs that plenty of people will get value from and will get results from, but if you want that human interaction, that extra
Mhm.
piece, like it's almost like writing a plan for somebody on handwritten on paper is like,
Yeah.
wow, somebody, a
It's better.
person wrote this,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, no, that's a
um
cool, like, cool aspect or cool, like, perspective of it. I like that.
Yeah. So with this coach that you've been working with, and trying to expand the brand and the market and reaching new people, what has been the main avenue for that? I'd like to talk a little bit about your social media because you have quite a large social media following. I mean, for the average, it's like 20 something thousand.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
what was that process like building for you? Because I know you put a lot of content out there, and you're always doing like your little, mic
Videos and
sessions where
shit.
you're answering
Mhm.
questions and stuff. Like, what was that process kind of like for you to build that? And then how are you going to leverage that with what you're currently doing with your business coach? And what do you hope to kind of accomplish, I guess, in 3 years, 5 years? Like, what does the business kind of look like?
Okay. Um, yeah, so let's see. What's the first part I should do?
Maybe how you
uh,
built it a little bit.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
how did you
Yeah.
get to where you're at?
So yeah, like with social media, like the biggest thing that built my following honestly was when I modeled, a decent amount like 5 years ago or so, like after my divorce. I was on a bunch of romance novels and stuff like that. I don't know if I told you that. But yeah.
No,
Dude, I've been on 30 romance novels. Yeah.
that's awesome.
Yeah. I got some up on the wall and stuff.
There's
Uh
there's some comedian or somebody that I was listening to that also did that and had a
oh,
bunch
really?
of. Yeah, that's awesome.
Oh, I don't
No,
know.
next
Yeah,
time I'm at
that's
the
how
gym,
that's
I'll
how
have to
Fabio
check
that's
that
how
out.
Fabio got big. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Who was your agent in Nashville?
I had some like small agent kind of thing, and then I had one in LA for a little while.
Okay,
But they didn't like it wasn't crazy or anything. Like I
got it,
I went to Dallas, Portland, like a few places. I got flown out a few places, but
got it.
like I didn't keep it going too long.
This is when you were
It was a lot
cutting,
on me.
not when you were
Yeah.
when you were
Oh
in
yeah.
between. That's
Oh
awesome,
no,
man.
yeah. This is when I was like my leanest. It was
Yeah.
like
So
after my
your
divorce. I
following is
was like,
mostly like 50-year-old
yeah,
housewives. Yeah, got
yeah,
it.
and gay dudes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Straight up, yeah. So like some of the gay guys are actually great clients because they're so nice and have money, It's
And
just
they
kind of thing.
just, yeah, dude, I have a
Yeah,
I have a gay client I train. One of my buddies from college actually in New York, and he's a lawyer. Him and
yeah.
his boyfriend are both lawyers, so they have tons of disposable income. And he's always telling me, he's like, "You got to target the gays, man. Like they'll love you. Just do a video with your shirt off, and like, how to make a gay man, jacked in 3 months or whatever." So there's
Yeah,
definitely a market there. But anyway, so
yeah,
you grew that following and
yeah. So So a lot of that doesn't like translate into the coaching, you know. So like my engagement's actually gone down a decent amount. Like since I've like made it much more professional on my page and stuff. But you know, one thing I think is really cool, a lot of the people I work with, like with my coach, like I don't think a single one has over 10K or something, and they're all making like 20K, 30K months, you know, and stuff. So it doesn't always like directly because you know if you have 1,000 followers, but they're all clients, that's a lot of money,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
So it doesn't like take a ton of followers, you know, to like really like do well with business wise with this. But yeah, I mean, the way I'm working on leveraging it is just, you know, how any coach does is just like working on content and marketing. And, you know, I'm working on putting like a content plan together. I've always kind of freeballed stuff, you know, and just kind of whatever I felt like doing that day. So like if I do a reel, then I thought about it like 10 minutes before, you know, kind of thing. So I don't have like a very solid like structure with it. So I'm working on that, for sure. And then I've got like my setter guy, the employee I have that reaches out cold DMs and stuff. He leverages like my warm audience and my followers and any new followers and stuff like that. So I make sure to like reach out to everybody, you know, that knows I'm a coach and could be interested, you know. And one thing that's like really cool with this that I found is really helped a lot. I was very anti like giving anything away for free, like anything, you know, like, and not at first, but I just kind of got screwed over a couple times, and I was like, you know what, never again. I'm not giving any advice, nothing. And with my new coach, it's very like, no, you need to give like a ton of free advice, and you need to give free like lead magnets away and stuff like that, you know, and um, like the biggest thing is helping people discover a problem that shows them other problems, you know. So um just kind of like helping people solve like small aspects of this, but that shows them they need a coach, you know,
Yeah.
essentially.
Do you follow Hormozy at all?
Yeah,
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 so he's probably the best in the business at that. I mean, it sounds like your coach knows what she's talking about too, but like
yeah.
I remember he had a thing a while back for his new book, and it was like he's given all this. I mean, they added up it's like those old commercials where it's like, and that's not all. Like we're throwing this, and
Yeah.
it's like, oh my god, for
five hundred
buying this
dollar
book,
value.
I get
Yeah,
it's like $20,000 just for showing up to this thing. So yeah, but I think there's definitely when we do that at my company is we create lead magnets and stuff that offer a ton of value for people. But I think that is
yeah,
super important and to
yeah.
differentiate yourself because obviously people don't know you from Adam, right? So, to have a way that they can realize, oh, this guy actually knows what he's talking about, I think is super
Hmm.
important and something that a lot of small business owners too. It's like that's a lot of how do you systematize it where you don't actually have to trade your time, like put in the work up front where you can create a ton of value that way, and then you don't have to worry about like, okay, I'm going to trade an hour of my time for this free phone call. It's like, well, that's a lot to ask. But if I put in 10, 15, 20 hours creating all this free content beforehand, that
That's
at the
true.
click of a button, I can share with somebody, that makes a lot more sense. There's
Hmm.
so many different ways to do that now. I think when we do get off this call and next time we chat, we should talk more about that app though, because I think that could be potentially a cool way for you to start sending some free content to people, and maybe it's just their workout, like, hey, do this workout for 3 weeks on your own. It's free on the app, you can check it out, and then if you like it,
It's a
come
good
back,
idea.
find me. And yeah, so and
Yeah,
there's
because
tons of
people
ways to do
people
stuff like
people
that.
know workouts. They're just not going to do it anyway. You know, it's
Yeah.
like that's like ChatGPT and all the free shit. It's like I tell people all the time, the training plan I'm gonna give you, you could find on Google. You know, it's just that like you're paying for the accountability. You know, again,
Yes, a hundred
and like
percent
yeah,
Yeah.
cool.
Okay. As far as I think the last part of this question was like, what does the business look like as you're building, as you're growing, and you've obviously seen a lot of exponential growth recently working with this coach. What do you see the business being in 3 years, in 5 years? Because you've talked a lot about the personal touch and how that's important to you. But obviously, as you expand, as you grow, at some point, you're either going to have to significantly increase your prices so that you can still work with every single person and like kind of
Mhm.
filter out all the other people, or you're going to have to build a team to help you kind of support that. So, what's kind of and again, you don't obviously, this could shift dramatically tomorrow,
But
but what's
yeah,
kind of your vision for the future there?
yeah. Like my number goal is 30K months. That's just kind of a general like kind of goal number that seems scary. to me. But I would say like overall, yeah, like building a team is going to be like my next steps. So probably like my next step will be hiring like a VA or something like that. Then maybe like a salesperson, and then like get into assistant coaches, or something like that. But yeah, again, like it'd be tough for me doing the assistant coach thing. Like I would really have to like vet people, and make sure that like I trust them, kind of thing, and like really have to stay on them, for a while. So it'd be almost like more work for me at first, but I definitely think that's like the only way to like truly scale past a certain point, you
Yeah,
know.
and it's finding that balance and trade-off, like, because
Yeah.
right now the company I work with, it's like I have clients who ask me all the time, like, why didn't you just branch off and do your own thing? The reality is that made a would have made a lot of sense in any other format, but I get such a high commission percentage from this current place, so like
Yeah.
the little bit that I'm actually trading off is worth it to not have to set up the billing software and my own
Yeah.
website and do all that other stuff. And I think that's definitely a consideration if you look at building a team in the future. Is like, okay, you want to get somebody high quality. Well, you can't pay them 50%, right? But
Yeah.
then, okay, you're paying them 90%. But how do you grow the business if you're only getting so that's definitely
100%.
that's definitely an issue going forward. But I think it's going to be a cool challenge for you figuring it out. And I have all the confidence in the world that if you still stay on it, you're gonna build it into something pretty awesome. So.
Yeah. Thanks,
Um,
man.
yeah, yeah. So we've talked a lot about how you kind of built your business. What was the history of you getting into all this? What kind of services you offer? If people have listen to this and they decide, hey, Logan sucks, I don't want to work with him. How do I get in touch with Cookie Cuts? Or maybe somebody that just happens to be listening to this in the local Nashville area. Like, what's the best way people can learn more about you? Social, share all of that stuff so we can have it.
Cool. Yeah. My socials are all cookie_cuts. Um, so that's usually the best way to reach me. Emails cookiecutsfitness@gmail.com. My website's cookiecuts.com, cookiecutsfitness.com. So I have a contact form on there too, but usually the best way to get a hold of me is Instagram. I've got different applications. You can even just go ahead and book a call, that kind of thing. So
That's
cool.
awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you kind of sharing your journey and
Yeah,
getting there.
man.
And I think there's a lot of there's so many people that come on podcasts and they act like they have it all figured out, and you just follow my plan and you do things this way. Like, this is why I'm so successful. And you're obviously very successful, but it's like you're still like, I'm kind of figuring out as I'm going. And
Still
I think
figuring this
that's
shit out. Yeah.
yeah, but that's super refreshing to people because I think a
Yeah.
lot of small business owners feel that way. Like, it's so daunting. What do I do on the next step? But to
Oh,
realize that
yeah.
if you just start, literally just start and kind of figure it out along the way, as long as you're offering a service that has value, like you
Yeah.
can do something on your own that's going to be really lucrative, but not just financially, also like personally, and
100%.
giving you a reason to kind of get up in the morning. So I think that's a super powerful message, and I really appreciate you taking the time today, Dave.
Yeah,
I'm
man.
looking forward to getting to know you more outside of here, and just continuing to see your growth with everything. So thanks everyone for listening. If you haven't liked and subscribed already, please do that, and definitely give Dave a follow so he can get rid of some of those thirsty moms on Instagram.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again soon.